Good evening, everyone. My name is Callan. I am a male to female transgendered woman. I am 2 years into my journey. I came out in 1998. I have lived as a woman from that time on. I am a biological male. I have always known since I was 6 years old I was in the wrong body. I have always known there was something wrong chemically that told me I was not supposed to be a man. I was supposed to be a woman. I've known since I was 6 years old, and it's been a very tough journey for me to actually get to this point. When I came out in 1998, I came out in a time where it was very taboo in the state of New Hampshire. There were not very many transsexuals there. I got called all kinds of names: gay, lesbian, this, that, faggot, the whole 9 yards, drag queen. And, none of that ever bothered me, and never has bothered me to this day. I didn't let that bother me. I had a very strong background. I had very strong walls, and nothing bothered me. Nothing bothers me at all. I'm not going to go into my life history. I don't want to relive that. I don't want to remember that. And it doesn't pertain to anything of what I'm going through now. I started my official journey on August of 2018, when I met my doctor, Dr. Parks, Dr. Yeri Parks at Lawrence Family Health Center. She is a transgendered specialist, PCP, and she was a great doctor. I immediately loved her on the spot. She did my intake. She did my, all my labs, my blood work, got to know me. I got to know her. It was beautiful. It was very beautiful. After having two doctors when I moved down here to Massachusetts, in the span of 2 years in Lowell, Mass, I was discriminated against twice. I'm not going to get into detail on that. It doesn't matter. It's not important, and I don't care about it. I'm a very strong person. And when I met Dr. Parks in August of that year, she set me up with a follow-up appointment to come back. And I would go over the actual hormone process and the start of when I could possibly have my hormones. She immediately knew on the spot that I was not going to go back to wanting to be a man. She could tell. I mean, I came in fully dressed. I had nails. I had my hair done. And she was just like, yeah, this girl's got it going on. And I had it going on. I was very happy-go-lucky. I was in a good place. Things were going awesome. Gainfully employed for, 7 years prior to that. That's something that doesn't happen. So she told me, what to expect, how soon I could expect, what the possible side effects could be: mood swings, intolerant outbursts, crying episodes, feeling unwanted, the whole 9 yards. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm all game for that. I've waited for this my whole life. I've known since I was 6 years old, Dr. Parks, this is what I'm meant to be. And I knew for all intents and purposes all intensive purposes, I was a female. I was that woman. The body just was not right to go along with the mind. The mind saw female. The body gave off male. Okay. She's like, I'm going to approve you. December 7th, you will start your testosterone blocker, which will alleviate a lot of the male processes. I was so excited. I was beyond excited. My journey was officially starting. I didn't know how long it was going to take me to actually transition, if it was going to happen within the next 5 years at that point in time. Didn't care. I was happy. I was starting my journey. January of 2019, I started my estradiol to be precise. And I was super excited. I was on the lowest dose, but you know what? I was happy. I was finally going to be becoming the woman I knew I was. And at some point in time, and she told me, she's like, you're going to go through severe mood swings. You're going to go through urinary tract problems. You're going to have to go every 5 minutes. You're going to have to, how should I say, just going to have episodes of being sad. You're going to have happy moments. You're mostly going to be sad. You're going to need your therapist all the time. You're going to have somebody there to support you. I was like, I didn't care. I was very, very happy to know I was going to be a woman. And that's all I cared about. So a month later, she took my labs and everything was perfect. And she's like, she looks at me and she says, you're ready, aren't you? I says, yes, I am ready. I am very, very ready, because we had discussed it prior to that. I says, I'll let you start me off on the lowest dose, and I'll go up the next step if you want me to. I says, but I think after about a month of being on the hormones, I'll be okay, and I'm going to want to be put on the highest dose. February, I was put on the highest dose. And it lasted for 3 months without my knowledge. Come March, CVS had messed up on my medication for the estradiol, the estrogen itself. They had put me back on the lowest dose. I did not know this until August of 2019. And I go in and I see my doctor. I said, Dr. Parks, something does not seem right. My body doesn't feel right. Everything was going so good for the first 3 months, because it took 3 months for the hormone to stop working and not do what it was doing to begin with, which was feminizing the body. And she says, well, your hormone levels are fine. She says, but it seems awful low. She says, your hormone levels should not be at a 67 and a 68 on the testosterone blocker, because the higher the level on the testosterone, the better it is to get rid of the testosterone in the body. But my estrogen hadn't changed. It stayed at 67 for 5 months. I says, what can I do? She says, well, I can try you on a different one. And at this point, I did not know CVS had messed up my medicine. I did not know until I left the office. And she says, well, I'll let you know, and I'll see, and I'll reach out to you in a couple days and let you know what we can do as far as, what another form of medication is we can prescribe for you on the hormone. And she gave me two choices, one either being pill for oral or having a shot in the arm. I says, okay. I says, I'll go home and I'll wait for you to call me. And I was so discouraged at that point in time because I didn't know where I was going to be. And I looked at her and I says, what am I going to do? I says, something is not right. So I went home and I grabbed my pill bottles. And I always saved my pill bottles for at least 4 months, the old ones, just to check and see if everything is the right that it's supposed to be, the right form. And I got looking at the bottle, so I'm like, something doesn't seem right here. Something's wrong. The writing's different. And I looked at it, and I looked all the way back to March. CVS had put me on the wrong dose. They put me back on the lowest dose of the estradiol. Very, 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 very bad. And I was like, I was so discouraged. I called Lawrence Family Health Center, and I left a message for Dr. Parks to call me. I figured out what it was. They transferred me over to her. I was on hold for about 10 minutes before she came online. I told her, I says, they messed up my medication. For the last 5 months, I've been taking the lowest dose. They put me from the highest dose to the lowest dose 3 weeks later. And it really messed up my body. I had severe mood swings. I was not in a very good way. It was not a good place to be at all. Not a good place to be at all. And she says, okay, I'm going to resend over the correct prescription on the medication. We'll try it out and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, then we'll go forward from that. And I says, okay, that sounds like a plan. We'll do that. So it took a couple days, and they sent me the corrected dose in a bottle, which I was able to add on the actual correct amount. And it took 7 months to self-correct that mistake. It made me sterile. I was left with no arousal, no sexual interest, not able to even do anything that would remotely resemble sex. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. And the mood swings, they were so bad. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was like, this can't be happening to me. I've waited so long for this to take place. And for what? And she looks at me. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I looked back at myself from the mirror, and I was like, why me? Why me? What did I do wrong that would have caused them to make that mistake on a pill bottle? And I still, if I want to, I could actually go after CVS for messing up my medication, because if I wanted to go back to being a biological male, there would be no arousal, none whatsoever. So, okay, I went forward from that. And like I said, it took 7 months to self-correct that mistake. It did self-correct. And 7 months later, I started to feel all of the changes take place. Everything was in a good bind again. I went through such mood swings. It was so bad. My therapist is like, what can I do? She's, I was like, it was bad, very bad. So, November of 2020, I asked my therapist for my first letter of recommendation for the genital affirmation reassignment surgery. And she says, are you ready? I says, yeah, I'm ready for this. She's like, all right, let me go draw up the template. Let me go see how I can do this. I'll have to get some help with it because it's my first time. And I was like, Ginger, you do what you got to do. I don't care when it's done as long as you give it to me. I had it in record time. It took a month to get that document. In January of that year, I had the document. It was so beautiful. And I submitted it to Boston Medical Center. And they responded back to me a month later and said, okay, we're going to set you up with an appointment to see Dr. Oates, Robert Oates. He's the urologist for the actual, because I have to see a urologist for the urethra. He's the one that performs that aspect. There's another doctor that does the actual surgery, which is Dr. Salam. I said, okay, awesome. And they called me back and they says, we have you scheduled for sometime in April, May of 2020. I was so excited. And at this time, the pandemic hadn't hit yet. And I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. You were just hearing touches of it going around. There's some kind of a pandemic going around overseas, and it hadn't made its way to the U.S. yet. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to have my surgery pretty soon. I'm going to be blessed. I'm going to have a perfect time. This is going to be so awesome. I'm finally going to achieve my bottom surgery. And then the pandemic hit in February. Everything got pushed back. I was like, okay, it's a minor setback. Maybe this will pass very, very soon. It got worse. All the hospitals, all of businesses, everything that we lost because of the pandemic. And it didn't deter me at all. I was like, okay, well, let's do this. Let's talk to my doctor and see about getting a letter of recommendation for the breast augmentation. So at least I have that. You have to go every year and renew these 2 letters of recommendation. And by that time, November of 2021 was rolling around. Of 2020, I mean. I was like, okay. So I asked my doctor for the letter for breast augmentation. She gave me a letter of breast augmentation. She submitted it to Boston Medical Center, which was submitted to my therapist. I brought it up to her attention after she received the letter from my provider, my PCP. And she drafted it very quick. It only took a couple days. And I had the letter of recommendation for breast implant surgery. And I was like, oh my God, I'm on top of the world. I've got 2 letters of recommendation in less than 5 months. That's like a record, a total record. Okay, so 2020 is starting to move forward. You know, we're a year and a half into the freaking pandemic. And it's not getting any better. But they're starting to open up phases of businesses and allowing guests, and you have to wear a mask and you have to do this. And, you know, you're not allowed to bring a guest to the hospital when you go for your appointments, you know. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can handle this. I've got this. I've got this plain and tree. So I get my letter of recommendation in November of 2020. And 3 months later, I have my letter of recommendation needing to be renewed for the genital affirmation reassignment surgery. So I had that in February of 2021. My appointment is scheduled after I meet the doctor, Dr. Salam, and he tells me everything that's going to happen and what size I want to be. And I told him, I says, somewhere between 500 and 650 cc's, which would be a perfect implant for my body frame, my size, my weight, my body, my height. You know, and I was like, I was so happy. Everything was finally opening up. Everything was finally coming back to normal. And then I blurted out that I had a possible heart attack. That was in April of 2021. Well, it pushed my surgery back because of that. I had to start all over again. Thank God I had already chose my size that I wanted to be, because I'm still going to have breast growth on the hormones, which I'm very grateful for. Being a 36C is a blessing. So it got pushed back 4 months. Okay, that's well and good. I got the phone call in August of 2021 to come and see the doctor, and they scheduled my first appointment for August 29th, I think it was. I went and I saw the doctor, and I met with, the nurse's aide who was taking it over, and she was going over everything. She says, "We got the clearance back from the cardiac specialist. You're all set to go for your surgery." I was so super excited. Oh my God, my level went way up. I was like, this is finally happening. I had my first appointment scheduled for September 1st. That's where I was to meet the doctor. And he told me everything he was going to do. They scheduled my COVID test on the 12th, which was on a Sunday of September. And 2 days later, after I got the results back on September 14th, I'd be going in to have my breast implant surgery done. It was awesome. You couldn't ask for a better outcome. Me and my friend Desi, we got there at around 11 o'clock in the morning. We were there almost 3 hours early, 3.5 hours early. But it was worth it because we wanted to beat the traffic in order to get into Boston. And we get there and, okay, we waited in the waiting room for almost 3 hours. Finally, 2 hours in, my friend Desi says to me, "I'm going outside and have a cigarette." She says, "I'll see you when I come back up." She says, "I'll be waiting for you. Have them call me." And she met with my nurse. The nurse gave her all the information and, told her she would call her after my surgery when I go in. I was called into the pre-operating room at 2:15 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. And it was rush, very, very rush. Literally 15 minutes to get from pre-op into operating room. At that point in time, as I get into the pre-op, they're starting to attach this and attach that, and they're taking my blood levels, and they're doing this, and they're having me sign documents, and the doctor comes over. He's the first one I see, and he starts drawing on my chest. By now, it's hitting me. I'm like, crap, this is really happening. This can't be real. And I was like, I hadn't slept since 4 o'clock 2 mornings before. I was so excited that I was going in for surgery. I had clearance on the COVID test 12 hours after I did the COVID test. It was perfect. And I'm like, this is awesome. And I'm on cloud 9. Couldn't believe it. This is happening. Then they had me lay down. They gave me a shot of tramadol or morphine or something in my arm. I didn't even get the anesthesia yet. By this point in time, they were starting to take me out of the pre-op room to wheel me down to, what is the room? I can't think of the name. The Moakley building. So they're wheeling me to the Moakley building, and it's about probably a 7-minute ride on the stretcher to go in there. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there. I fell asleep before I got into the pre-op room. They hadn't even put my IV in, and they hadn't even given me the anesthesia to knock me out. I went out like a light. The surgery started at 2:45. It was done at 3:45 when I was wheeled out of the operating room into the post-op room. Mind you, I'm still sleeping. 3 hours later, I'm still sleeping. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm laying on my back, and my eyes open up, and I see these 2 huge lumps. I'm like, shit, this happened. I was like, this was something beautiful. This actually took place. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a dream. Your dream is coming true. You are about to become the female you have always known you've been. That flower is blossoming. And that was the best day of my life. A week later, after I left the hospital at 6:45 that night of the surgery, I went back on a Tuesday because my surgery was on the Tuesday the week before, and I saw the doctor. And I told him, she says, "How is your pain level?" He says, "Honestly, I've had no pain whatsoever. I've had no discomfort." And at that point in time, they took the tape off from right here. It was going up through here and come down and around. And they had to take it all off because it was a special tape that was like nylon. So you could shower with it on. And at first they told me before the surgery, I wouldn't be able to shower. And I was like, well, that's going to suck. Well, you're going to have to sponge bath that area. You can't shower. That's what they told me before surgery. I was like, okay, no problem. 6:45 that night before I left, and they will not let you leave the hospital until you go into the bathroom and you go to the bathroom. They want to make sure your plumbing is working. I got like 3 drops that came out. And I walk out of the bathroom in the post-op room, and the nurse looks over at me and she gives me a thumbs up and she's like, "Everything okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go now." 2 hours later at 6:45, an hour after the guy was supposed to be there to wheel me down to the actual hospital main lobby where my ride was picking me up to bring me back to Lawrence, the guy finally shows up. He was an hour and a half late. I was supposed to be out of the hospital by 5:30, the least. And it took that long to get me out of the hospital because the guy had like 5 or 6 people that came all at once that needed wheelchairs. So he couldn't get up there, which I was fine. I was so heavily sedated, I didn't care. It didn't mean anything to me. I was like, yeah, okay, this is awesome. So we leave, we go home, and a week later, I told the doctor, and she's like, "How's your pain level? How's this? How's that? Everything okay? Have you had any pain?" And I'm like, "I've had nothing." I am very excited with this. And she had me get undressed, and she's looking at him, takes the tape off, and she's like, "It looks really good." I says, "Yeah, it took a week for the anesthesia to get out of my body." And it was that morning before I went into the hospital for the first post-op appointment, that the anesthesia finally left my body. It took almost a week to finally fully go, number one. I could not go. I was having such a hard problem. I was so heavily sedated, and I was like, and finally I was starting to get sensation here. It was so rock hard for the first 4 days. And you could see there was no swelling, but you could feel the hardness over the actual breast. They were like, anybody's fighting the body to say, "Hey, look, this is okay to have this," but it was taking longer for it to heal. But I'm very, very grateful for what I have. So I have my post-op appointment coming on October 28th. That'll be the final one, where I will officially be cleared to go back to work, where I work at the Windsor House in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I live in Haverhill. I've lived here for 2 months now since I moved out of Lawrence. And everything is going mighty, mighty well. And at that point in time, I will be going back to Boston Medical Center on November 18th for the neovaginoplasty evaluation, which will move me forward to have the actual genital affirmation reassignment surgery. That's where I will be cleared by Dr. Salam, recommending for anybody going in for breast augmentation and implant. Awesome. You definitely want to go to Boston Medical Center. The doctors here on the East Coast, they're the bomb. They're awesome. I'm still debating whether or not I want to get FFS, facial feminization surgery. I haven't decided on that. I'd like to have this more rounded. I'd like to have this brought somewhat down so it gives it more female form to the face. And I need to have my brows shaved down, and I need to have this, but that doesn't look so bad now. I mean, it really has faded. It used to be, I mean, that sucker would stick out that much when I was very, very prominent. And if you go into my Facebook profile, which there'll be a link for this, you can see exactly what I look like over the last 22 years. Holy crap. It's been that long. Wow. But anyways, it was nice to share all of this with you. It's not been an easy road for the first 2 years. I was assaulted back in 2019, September of 2019. And it left a lot of emotional scars that came up. And I will bring that up in another story after I finish my transition. I'm not going to bring that up yet. I will at some point in time be writing a book. I'd like to write a memoir on this. I've had a very good journey. Granted, I haven't had a lot of trans friends. I'm just now starting to find trans friends out there, and ones who are actual good trans friends. But that is my first part of my journey. Having the breast implant surgery done behind me, and a part of my life that is now uplifting me to move forward on to the next aspect of the journey, which will be genital affirmation reassignment surgery. Hopefully within the next 4 to 5 months. I will get back to you. I will be updating you. You will see more and more of my videos coming out. And I wish you all a very blessed night. I love you, and God bless.